Hi everyone, we're Group 4 and this is our presentation of the key findings from our usability evaluations of the app SuperBetter. If you're not familiar, SuperBetter is an application backed by science that facilitates resilience training. This is achieved primarily through the gamification of everyday life. Small incremental challenges such as making breakfast or walking your dog are rewarded and tracked through the app in conjunction with larger challenges. Progress in these areas is measured, and the app provides users with metrics on their physical and emotional well-being, as well as their progress towards achieving challenges such as sleeping better and their overarching or long-term goals called an epic win. In order to better understand and evaluate SuperBetter in terms of usability, we employed 3 separate evaluation methods: 1, heuristic evaluations and cognitive walkthroughs; 2, usability testing; and 3, a quantitative comparison study. Hey everyone, it's me, Zach again. Starting with our combined heuristic evaluations, in total we uncovered 13 potential usability issues. To find these, we evaluated the usability of this application against Nielsen's 10 usability principles and combined our results. Our interesting findings from this evaluation method are the usability catastrophes that are imperative to fix, which we denoted as SR4 in our report. The other issues we found were ranked severity rating 1 through severity rating 3, but they did not require immediate action. One of the primary SR4 issues all 3 of us found was that users cannot set multiple challenges simultaneously. Not having this ability affects efficiency, effectiveness, and satisfaction, and violates the supporting heuristic guideline, user control and freedom. Our recommendation is to integrate the ability to input multiple challenges. The next severity rating 4 issue we found was the lack of synchronized experience across different platforms. This negatively impacts users' mental models of the app and reduces learnability and efficiency. This went against the supporting heuristic guideline, consistency, and standards. Our recommendation for this issue is to immediately update the quest section with the user's most recent accomplishments and available quests on all platforms when they are added or completed. The last SR4 issue we'd like to discuss is the user's lack of ability to customize or mute sound effects within the app. Users being unable to control sound effects degrades control and freedom of use. This goes against the heuristic guideline of flexibility and efficiency of use. Our recommendation is to integrate a feature which allows users to cancel or mute sounds if they choose to. Additionally, if they want to keep sounds, they should have an option to choose from a set of custom sound effects. Okay, I'm going to send it over to Alistair to talk about our interesting find from the usability test.
Hi everyone, I'm Alistair. I'm one of the members of Group 4. I'll cover our interesting find from our usability tests. Our group's interesting find from our usability test was that participants who had mobile app exposure did worse on the desktop interface. This is interesting in hindsight because our later comparative tests showed that there's really no difference between our desktop and mobile designs when there's 2 separate groups or a between subjects design. This clearly alludes to learning effects from mobile to desktop. In our usability test, we had one participant who had no prior exposure to the mobile app and did really comparatively well, I guess, on the test, only having 3 minor errors in 3 of the 8 tasks. Conversely, the other participant who had a lot of mobile experience prior to taking the desktop test had a lot of errors. He had 5 of 8 errors in the total tests. So to note, we didn't get to test the reversed way around, so from desktop to mobile, just because of limitations in our pool of recruits, as well as our testing equipment. But that's something we should test in the future if we were to explore this further. So the reason, I guess the key takeaway of why we're beating this up is that we are currently in a pandemic where a lot of desktop users are increasing across the world because they're forced to work from home or do school from home. For example, my personal career outside of school uses Zoom and Microsoft Teams a lot for collaboration, and there's both a mobile and desktop design for both those apps. I actually personally had some disorientation going from my phone to my desktop when using on Microsoft Teams, for example. So I can only imagine that would happen to a lot of other people. So maybe the open-ended question is, are there emerging design heuristics for designing between mobile and desktop? I imagine there would be, since we've been in this pandemic for about a year already, but I haven't been able to find anything on my searches, and I'd be interested to see if there was. So with that, I'll be followed by Zach, who will present an interesting find from the comparative test we did.
Okay, everyone, this is Zach again, and our interesting finding from the comparison study was, while participants performed equally between mobile and desktop devices in terms of successful task completion rate, there was a significant difference in task 3. During this task, participants were asked to complete a power-up within the app, and mobile participants completed the task significantly quicker than desktop participants, as verified by our unpaired t-test. In order to set up this between-subject study, we recruited participants to take part in one of 2 separate tests. One was to be completed on desktop devices, and the other was to be completed on mobile devices, and this was ensured by our pre-screener questionnaire. Both studies consisted of the same 3 tasks and a post-study questionnaire. We decided to use Optimal Workshop's Chalkmark to conduct this remote unmoderated study, as we were able to get a free educational license for the platform, and it allowed us to set tasks within predefined correct area boundaries for first-click testing, as shown by the green squares in the picture to the left. Additionally, we were able to gain further information and opinions from the participants with the Likert scale, ranking, and open-ended questions held at the end of the study. After we collected data from all 33 participants, we began our quantitative analysis. To compare binary data, such as pass and fail data for each task, we used a 2-proportion z-test. To compare continuous data, such as time to complete task on each device, we performed an unpaired t-test for each task. Our recommendation for SuperBetter in the short term would be to maintain the current design, as many users are still using desktop devices to access the app due to the pandemic. In the long term, the design team should consider taking cues from the mobile application, where participants in our tests completed tasks significantly quicker and more efficiently. The variation and distribution of clicks, as seen in this mobile and desktop heat map comparison image, can illustrate this point, as mobile users were much more direct and gravitated towards the same areas on the screen versus the more widely distributed clicks of desktop users.
Hey, it's me, Alistair, again. Our biggest lessons learned centered around 2 problems. So 1, how to collaborate during the pandemic. We simply could not physically meet, nor could most people in this class as well. And problem 2 is, how do we get around our different work schedules? So Zack, Qian, and I all had different availabilities and lived in different time zones, for example. So our best practice to get around problem 1 was leveraging our cloud services. We use Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides heavily. And to note, this is something we actually implemented on Project 2. Project 1 was a haphazard exchange of files we locally edited. Version control was pretty much a nightmare. After we implemented the cloud services practice, our work was much more efficient. For our remote user testing, what worked for us was Zoom for usability tests and Optimal Workshop's Chalkmark. We deliberately chose Zoom and Chalkmark because these had the most minimal impact on users' devices. So they didn't have to install anything extra on their computer or their phone. And this being a touchy subject with the recent data breaches, privacy, it was almost like a soft red line between for our participants to have anything intrusive on their phone or their desktop. For problem 2, Zack, Qian, and I all had different schedules. For example, Qian is a full-time student with multiple classes. The same with Zack, who also runs a woodworking shop on the side. And I also have a full-time career, and also live in Germany, which is a completely different side of the world. So best practices to overcome this difference in our availability was a rapid messaging service or communication tool. Not just email, but something that uses the chat messenger concept model. We use Slack, which is pretty robust, and I know a lot of people here already have that experience with this same app. But for us, what worked well was something that could easily be referenced, on a mobile device, on the desktop, wherever you were. So it was more of an immediate response. So to sum up, cloud services, minimal user intrusion, and rapid communication tools really enabled our success this quarter.
All right, that about concludes our presentation. We hope you found our interesting findings meaningful and applicable to SuperBetter in terms of usability improvements. Additionally, please let us know if you were able to benefit from our lessons learned regarding communication and project management. And from the entire team, we would like to thank you for watching our presentation.